Hi guys, it's Joe. So for today's project, I'll be using the Stencils 360 tool. So here are just a couple of the stamp sets that I'll be using. This one is the Swedish truck, and now I'm just using this for the little stars image. This one is my BFF. I'll be using the clouds and also the cute little rainbow. And then lastly, this is Lucky Break, and I'll be using this cute little guy. So this stamp set is Words from the Heart, Chapter 1, and I'll be using the Shoot to the Moon sentiment there. And then I'll be using the coordinating dies, mainly the hexagon that you see there. And then the stencil here is called the Orbit. So let's get started on this card. So here I have a 6x6 white cardstock, and then I am actually gonna ink up the background first before I start stenciling. So some of the colors I'm using are Peacock Feathers, and that is a distress ink. I'll be using Wilted Violet, Pickled Raspberry, and those are distress oxide inks, and one last distress ink is chipped sapphire. Now I'm trying to create this galaxy background, so instead of using the black soot, I'll be using the chipped sapphire, and that's more of a deep navy blue, and I like the pops of pink that the pickled raspberry gives. So at first it starts like you don't know what's your background's going to look like. It looks really messy, but once all the colors are blended, it looks uh, perfectly fine. So here I'm focusing the chipped sapphire on the edges because I'm not sure, or I wasn't sure in the beginning if I was going to use this big of a size, a 6x6, or if I was going to cut it down. So here I'm just using some white paint and some like a shimmer additive to use for my like stars for the galaxy. So I just mixed it up with some water and tapped it, dipped my paintbrush inside and tapped it off to create those little white splatters there. So now here is the Stencils 360 tool. I put in the 6-inch paper guide, and I adhered my background paper cardstock to my mat, and then I inserted the 8-inch guide ring, and you can see that I taped the actual stencil to the guide ring like artist, and it works perfectly fine. I did change my work surface, so now the stencil tool sits atop a more smoother surface. As you can see, as I turn the stencil, it guides really smoothly, and I does not catch on my work surface. So here is the Orbit stencils, and I'm using Distress ink in Black Soot for the color, and I'm just turning it on, I believe it's a, and it was the triangle symbol. So here is the cute little guy from Lucky Break. I'm using some Copic markers, and I'll have the list of Copic markers that I used in the description box below because I forgot to set it aside next to the image so that you can see it. But yeah, I just really quick, I just colored his skin. I tried to use the same colors on the card on his outfit, so more of a teal on his shirt, and his shorts are purple. Later off camera you don't see it, but I do take that mini star image from the stamp set, um, the Swedish truck, and I stamp it a few times on his shirt to give it a pattern. And then here I'm just finishing off his hair with some black Copic markers. So I'm back on my work surface. I did trim down the card to the A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And here I'm taking that hexagon die cut die, and I'm centering it in my card there, and I have some purple tape because I am going to cut that out and create a shaker window. So beforehand, I did make sure to double check that my sentiment does fit, and it does because they are coordinating dies. So I go ahead and run it through my cutting machine, and then next I'm going to stamp the sentiment. It's shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. So I first I was gonna stamp it with some black ink, then I changed my mind and I stamped it with Hero Arts Unicorn ink, but it still wasn't as bright as I wanted. So I did off camera decide to white emboss it with some detailed white embossing powder, but I like how the white pops out. So here is my card base. It is an A2 size and it's black cardstock. And then here I am adhering the center part, the sentiment, to my card here. And then I go ahead and close up that window with an acetate sheet for the shaker portion. And I'm just trimming it off because I really didn't need that big of a size. So that would be the front. And then later on, I did notice that the edges were white and my card base is black. So I went ahead and got more of that chip sapphire and ran it along the edges of that cardstock to make it less noticeable, and it blended it very well. So I put some removable purple tape on the card because I wanted to keep it closed for now. And here is some foam tape that I'm cutting down to size so that it creates the shaker well for my shaker. And I'm trying to make sure that all the gaps are filled in. And you can see that any piece that I cut off I did use. So I basically covered the perimeter of that hexagon die, making sure again that there are no gaps and none of the sequins will escape. So let's see what else. You didn't see this. I did not include it in the video, but this is actually the second time I was doing this because once I filled up that shaker well with my sequins, one of the sequins was full of static because immediately once I put that shaker window with the acetate on it, the whole window was covered with sequins and it had already sealed, and I was not able to move it or shake it out of the way. You could not even see through the window and see the sentiment. So I had to redo it, and I chose a different sequence. So I'm using some iridescent stars in teal, clear, and a purple flower slash star shape. So none of those sequins stuck to my acetate sheet, so you can actually see through the window. So here I'm sealing off the shaker window. A little bit of that foam tape did peek through the window, but it's okay because the die cuts that I use will cover the foam tape that is exposed. So here are the colored die cuts. There are the clouds. I'm just trying to make sure that I do cover up that foam strip that is showing. I put the rainbow in the center there and the cloud with the face at the top right, and I'm just adhering all those elements with some liquid glue. So here is my completed card. I added more of the star sequence on the front of the card on the clouds and also on some of the edges around those orbit images. So that is my card. I hope you guys enjoyed this video of me using the Orbit Stencils 360 and the 360 tool along with the other stamps. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye.